The budget bill is a big loser for Trump, and the people aren't happy about it. Could the health care bill be back and better than ever? Well, if it is, it may show a strategy forming within the Trump administration. Immigration is slowing, but is Trump really solving the problem? And the left is getting nuttier than ever, but have they gone too far? One far-left pundit thinks so. All that coming up next on The Michael Newman Show.
Access denied.
I did not go.
Don't tase me, bro. No. Don't tase me.
No.
Ow!
What difference at this point does it make?
I feel terrible.
How is that okay?
I know words. I have the best words.
I am acting here.
I'm mouthy! Mouthy!
I've got a lot of things on my plate.
This isn't food!
This is garbage.
Shut up. Because I think that's what you are entitled to.
Now you see that evil will always triumph because good is dumb.
This is not funny.
We'll start things off with a headline. Get this. Doctor claims, you've heard of this guy, doctor claims he will do the first human head transplant this year. So look out, Hillary 2020!
You know?
Now we've got a budget bill. Democrats are very, very happy about it. They think they can block President Trump's legislative priorities on into the future by winning nearly $5 billion in new domestic spending through exploiting disagreements between Trump and the GOP lawmakers, meaning the Democrats are now in charge when it comes to budget battles, even with Trump in the White House. How is it, my friends, that Democrats can lose, was it more than 1,200 seats in the country and still be in control? Now, it's not a rhetorical question. It's because, at least in my estimation, that Paul Ryan, George W. Bush, and Mitt Romney, that wing of the party, are not interested in their own campaign slogans or promises. They want to grow government just as much as Democrats are. I would call them Democrats in Republican clothes. So what's in this budget bill? A whole lot, $1.7 trillion worth, to keep the government running through the end of September. It's a 1,665-page bill. Isn't that nice? But that's not what's the most interesting. Most interesting are the things that aren't included in the bill. Border wall. No. The bill includes about $1.5 billion for border security, but no funding at all for the wall. Planned Parenthood. Hey, baby, we could save some money. And no, there's no cuts for Planned Parenthood. Deportation force. Well, that's been kind of a contentious issue, and there is no funding going towards such a force, but the bill does, however, fund about 5,000 additional detainee beds. How about non-defense spending cuts? Well, that sounds good, doesn't it? Right? No, none of those either. The Environmental Protection Agency maintains at nearly 99% of its funding. $295 million goes towards Medicaid in Puerto Rico, and $4.6 billion is set aside to permanently grant health benefits to 22,000 retired Appalachian coal miners. Working in a coal mine, I just slipped down. Well, good job, Appalachian coal miners. I should get a new job. Cuba. The bill does not roll back any of President Obama's easing of economic trade restrictions with Cuba, once again propping up an evil communist regime. And, of course, the most important topic that everybody wants to talk about, marijuana. The bill bars the Department of Justice from using funds to interfere with medical marijuana use in states where it is legal. Operators of marijuana companies will still have to deal in cash, though, making it a very dangerous business, as lawmakers rejected a proposal making it easier for cannabis shops to use the banking system.
Oh, man.
This budget bill, or lack thereof, has started even more infighting within the GOP. The conservative wing of the GOP is highly displeased with the budget agreement reached this week. Instead of fighting for President Trump's conservative budget priorities, they have surrendered to the Democrats once again. That's from Ken Cuccinelli, a former Virginia Attorney General who heads the Senate Conservative Fund. Democrats are, in fact, elated over the $1.07 trillion budget deal, which reads almost like an Obama administration blueprint.
No, they're ignorant. That's ignorant.
So we got all the bills, another product. That sounds great. Well, Charles Krauthammer agrees with me, saying the budget bill is a total loss.
Trump got rolled. The Republicans got rolled.
They ended up with nothing, really. It's sort of embarrassing. I understand the strategic idea. We're halfway through the year, only a few months left. This has all been negotiated in the past. You save your fire for September when you do next year. That's what they say every time, that they save their fire, and they don't use it the next time. Now, Trump has been wonderful, I think, in sort of throwing out a lot of ideas, starting with the gas tax. The Kim idea wasn't a great idea, but there's no denying the fact that this was not a win. He was not the winner he said he was, or negotiator. This is a total loss.
Talk about a total loss. The spending is even crazier than you thought. The spending bill, get this, includes 2,500 more visas for Afghans. Yeah, MasterCard will only be for doilies. Yeah, I'm sorry about that one. As I'm going through this budget, I'm seeing what's happening politically and thinking back to the debate about health care. I'm wondering if there could be a connection between the budget, taxes, health care, all that stuff. Could there be a strategy going on here? White House economic advisor Gary Cohn and White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus expressed confidence on Monday that the Republicans will secure enough support to pass a revised bill to replace Obamacare this week. That's right. The Obamacare Repeal and Replace Act could be back on the table. So the House Freedom Caucus is signing on. And now, where is the health care plan?
Well, I think it's in a pretty good place. Obviously, there's more people that need to be looking at the amendment, and they're reading very carefully the text of the amendment and the effect of the amendment on the overall bill. But I can tell you the administration is feeling fairly positive tonight about where things are at on the health care repeal and replace bill of Obamacare.
Of course, that is Reince Priebus. Also, in an interview with Fox News, Reince commented on Chuck Schumer saying that they're not even talking to us about what they're doing.
We're happy to get their support. I mean, they're going to have an opportunity to vote on this bill as well, and they have an opportunity to govern through all these committees and through the process as well. This process was run through regular order from the beginning, and that regular order means that everyone has a say in the process. So if they want to come on board and give us ideas of how to make the bill better, certainly we'll listen to them. But
now, is it true that the health care bill is coming back? Is it true that we could be talking about this or debating this or passing this? Is it true that Obamacare could be going away? And if it is, if all this stuff is happening and the bill that they're producing is actually one that could be signed off on, I mean, the House Freedom Caucus is saying thumbs up.
Bingo.
It raises a question in my mind. Could there be some sort of strategy going on here? Now, I could just be living in a happy delusion.
Have you gone plumb loco out of your mind?
That the world isn't crumbling in front of my eyes. But here's the theory. A loss could be a win. Failing is the plan. You see, that you lose the bill that is big, the bill that is in the news, the bill that everybody's talking about, i.e. healthcare. Lose the bill and move on. Then some other issue will pop up in a couple of weeks, probably a couple of hours. And when the focus is turned onto that bill, when the focus is turned on to another topic or agenda item, then you can go back behind closed doors to the agenda item that you failed on and bring it back up again and be able to negotiate with the least amount of media spotlight possible, possibly even getting a real bill passed out of that sort of scenario. Is that a plan? Is that a strategy? It certainly would be something new that no one's seen before. Here's a headline for you. Walmart shopper, get this, Walmart shopper finds Chinese prisoner note in purse. That would be disconcerting. Find a Chinese prisoner note in the purse that you're trying to buy. The note was written in Chinese, but once translated read, "Making America great again, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week."
We will have so much winning.
Immigration is still a problem. Immigration is a continuing problem, but the number of immigrants is being reduced. In many ways, President Donald Trump's attempts to implement his hardline immigration policies have not gone very well in his first 3 months in office. His travel ban aimed at some Muslim-majority countries had been blocked. The U.S.-Mexico border wall has gone nowhere in Congress, no funding. And he's retreated, at least for now, on his vow to target illegal immigrants brought here as children. But one strategy that seems to be working is fear. The number of migrants, legal and illegal, crossing the United States border has dropped markedly since Trump took office, while recent declines in the number of deportees have been reversed. So it's fear that's keeping people out, just like the number of immigrants coming across the border reduced when we were in the recession. Remember that? The economy took a tank, so people decided, hey, probably not a good place to go. It is good news. Don't get me wrong. The number of immigrants coming into the country, legal, illegal, whatever it is being reduced, which, of course, makes things better for Americans from a job standpoint and certainly from a social services standpoint and from a safety and law standpoint. But it just isn't good enough. Rhetoric is not going to solve this problem. The law shouldn't be about who's in office at the time.
Kind of dumb, but awful pretty.
Something, I don't know what, but something has to be done to force the government into enforcing its own laws. The laws are on the books, my friends, and everything that the Trump administration is doing is within the rubric of what is written on paper. He's not added any laws. He's not done anything but to begin to enforce the laws that are already on the books. A wall on the southern border would be a good start to forcing immigration law enforcement into the future. It would be a good start. It wouldn't solve the problem, but at least it'd be two things. Number one, it would be a sign. It would be a monument to the idea of border security. It would be the money that we spent, billions of dollars that we spent, that the American people were willing to spend and are happy to spend to shut down the border. If nothing else, it would be a big symbolic win. And that's number one. Number two, it's a physical wall. So it would be difficult to tear it down, right? And there would be a lot of fights. There would be a lot of angst amongst the population. If the border wall gets built and the next administration says, tear down this wall, the American people would go nuts, and it would be a very big fight. The question here is, what legally can we do, if anything, to force future administrations, whether it be Republican or Democrat, or anything else for that matter, to enforce laws that are on the books? They haven't been able to change the laws. They haven't been able to get an amnesty bill or comprehensive immigration reform because of border security. We don't believe that they're going to secure the borders before, after, or during, this new immigration reform. We don't think they're going to do it because the past has shown us that our government cannot be counted on to follow its own laws. So if they're not going to follow the old laws, why would they follow the new laws? So Americans haven't bought on to the idea of comprehensive immigration reform, and it hasn't happened up to this point. So the laws haven't changed. Now, all we have to do is get administration officials in the future to follow immigration law.
My advice to you, start drinking heavily.
There's a lot of reasons why immigration law is important, not the least of which is the makeup of the people in the United States and what we have to pay to keep these people in the United States, posing significant challenges for educators. About 1 in 8 students in California schools have at least one parent who is undocumented. You cannot tell me that that doesn't cost the rest of the American people a huge chunk of change. It's non-enforcement, my friend, of immigration law. And the problem is it's been going on so long. It's become such a large problem. We have such a dense population of people who are here illegally that it's going to take draconian measures to set a new standard. And that's what we have to do. We have to set the standard in the United States that the law is the law, and regardless of your situation, you have to follow it. The only other option is an open border standard, which there's a lot of people that want. They want open borders. Just let them all in. Well, what's going to happen if we have open borders? Well, massive unemployment. The United States is the richest country in the world. There's going to be a lot of people that want to come to the United States for this dream of being more wealthy or having some sort of success that they can't get in their own country. So the open borders are going to see a wave of people coming into the United States looking for a better life. Massive wage losses here in the United States with huge numbers of immigration. There's going to be a lot of people out there looking for jobs. And when you have a market of workers that's vast with a few number of jobs, those workers that do have the jobs will be paid less because there's someone out there that will do that job for the amount of money that the employer wants to pay. And number 3, massive U.S. debt due to social services. Not everybody's going to be employed. Not everybody's even going to speak the language. A lot of people are going to come here with children. Those children will have to go to school. There's going to be a lot of things that we have to pay for. And if we're not willing to get rid completely of our social services system, our social safety net, meaning all of welfare, meaning all of Social Security, meaning all of Medicare, Medicaid, all of it, it all has to go. If we won't get rid of all of that, then those things are going to be open to the new immigrants crossing the border. And it's going to flood the system. We will not be able to pay for it. So, open borders in the United States means what? It means the end of the United States as a sovereign nation. We will crumble economically. Facebook, back in the news. Criticized, get this, for analyzing teenagers' feelings and accused of giving that information to advertisers. Yeah. Well, there's been no response from the advertisers as they can't stop laughing.
You're all worthless and weak.
The left in the United States has gone a long way, and some people think they've gone too far. During an interview on NBC News Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, he read a piece from the Washington Free Beacon about President Donald Trump's first 100 days in office. Here's part of that piece. What the Democratic Party has yet to understand is that its social and cultural agenda is irrelevant to the material and spiritual well-being of former constituents. And until the Democrats realize this fact, their next 100 days will be no better than their first. Then Todd asked Matthews if he agreed with that assessment.
A lot of it's cultural, not just economics. And I think that the position Hillary Clinton, for example, took on abortion, late-term abortion's fine, federal funding, get rid of the Hyde Amendment, pushed too far. I think a lot of the people came out and voted in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, were pro-lifers. And they just, with all Trump's problems, morally, personally, whatever, they didn't like Hillary's position. I think the party moved too far to the left on cultural issues.
Well, the left has been moving too far left for a long time. You can see that from the voter turnout and the number of Democrats that have lost seats. And I think Matthews is right. Culture has a lot to do with it. There are certain things that we fight about in this culture. You see it on YouTube. If you go to any of the commentaries there, you see it happening on college campuses. This giant divide between what is happening on campuses in Washington and big cities with the rest of the United States. And frankly, if you want to put big cities in this, I think there's a lot of people within those big cities, even New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, big liberal cities, that actually don't agree with what the protesters are talking about. Yet, they live in close proximity. So they can't really say anything about it. They can't be vocal about it because if they open their mouth, next thing you know, they got a brick in it. So, yeah, the left has gone too far. I was surprised by this. I always thought Richard Dreyfuss was a crazy liberal, and he probably is, but at least there is some common ground. He appeared on Fox News with Tucker Carlson, and wanted to talk about President Trump, sort of his dislikes there, but offered a surprising defense of free speech on college campuses.
The next night, you were talking about the speakers on university campuses.
Yeah.
And I am totally, incontrovertibly on your side about this. I think that any intrusion into the freedom of speech is an intrusion into freedom of speech. And when one of the presidents of one of the colleges said, this is a school, not a battlefield, I said, no, it is a battlefield of ideas, and we must have dissenting opinions on campuses, and I think it's political correctness taken to a nightmarish point of view.
You know what's also a battlefield? Love is a battlefield. Yeah. Except there is no free speech in love. You better shut up and just say what you think you should say, or else you'll be in trouble. He's absolutely right. What's going on college campuses today is unconscionable. in the rubric of being a United States citizen. The United States is set apart in the world. Our First Amendment, our guarantees of free speech, go much farther than any other country on planet Earth. Other countries limit speech based on context or based on content. They have hate speech laws. The United States does not, and there is a distinction between those two things that is massive. When you have hate speech laws, then your speech is then judged by somebody else's rules. Then all speech is judged by one person, and it's that person who describes or decides what hate is. Once you can define something for any reason as being hate speech, well, then you can illegalize all speech and just shut people down. That's a scary thing because freedom does not come from the dark. A better society is not created when people can't discuss things that are happening within society, whether it be politics or religion. And as it's been a long time since I've been in school, I found this response that Dreyfus had to be kind of interesting about, well, he's sort of describing why all these things are happening in society. What's the disconnect between the older generations and the younger generations? What's going on there? This is what Richard Dreyfus had to say.
I have withdrawn from partisan politics. I am a constitutionalist who believes that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights must be central and the parties must be peripheral. And I think that what's most important for me is what you just mentioned haphazardly. We're over 30. Civics has not been taught in the American public school system since 1970. And that means that everyone in Congress never studied the Constitution and the Bill of Rights as you and I might have. And that is a critical flaw because it's why we were admired and respected for so long. It gives us our national identity. It tells the world who we are and why we are who we are. And without a frame that gives us the values that stand behind the Bill of Rights, we're just floating in air. And our sectors of society are not connected.
I agree with that. There's a reason why, though, that civics is not taught in schools anymore. The Constitution is a powerful thing. The Constitution is an individual thing. Speaking of the Bill of Rights, it is your rights against the state, the things that the state cannot do to you. Even President Obama didn't even agree with that. He says that the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, is a list of negative liberties and the things that the government can't do to you. I agree with it. Not that that's negative, but that is what the Constitution is. He wanted a Constitution that were positive liberties, what the government has to do for you. Well, that doesn't work because when the government does for you, they have to take away from somebody else. People don't know what their rights are. They don't know what the Constitution is. They don't know how it works. And because they don't know how it works, they cannot work within it. And then there's groups out there that wish to subvert the Constitution because it just gets in the way of them forever changing society into something completely different than the American experience. Yes, the left is crazy. The left is insane. And the left, most importantly, doesn't solve any problems. That's the most important thing. Elizabeth Warren, I like to call her Lizbeth. Hey, Lizbeth. Elizabeth Warren, she's got a new book out, and she's been pretty vocal lately. I think she's angry because she's lost her left spotlight, but she's back in it now. And she goes after former President Obama regarding his handling of the working class in America in a Guardian interview. She says President Obama, like many others in both parties, talk about a set of big national statistics that look shiny and great, but increasingly have giant blind spots. That is true. You can take national statistics and skew them in any which way you want to make your side look better. It's pretty easy. Then she goes on to say, the lived experiences of most Americans is that they are being left behind in this economy. Worse than being left behind, They're getting kicked in the teeth. Now, this is what the left does. They want to identify with you on an emotional level. I know your problems and I feel your pain. But unfortunately, there's a big difference between feeling and fixing. And unfortunately, in today's virtue signaling world, the two things are pretty much interchangeable. The only way to fix the middle class is to get out of the way. People are being held back by government. Government is holding them back. And getting rid of government interference is not something that Elizabeth Warren is willing to do. So the left will go out and they will look at what's happening in society and will say, I see your problems, I feel your pain, and I want to be there for you. I want to help. I want to fix your life. And then they start offering up new plans. Oh, yeah, we're going to pay for this and we're going to pay for that. We'll take care of your health care. We know you've got all these bills from college. We're going to take care of that too. We're going to make housing. I will take care of housing. You want to be an artist? We'll pay for your life so you can go out and be an artist. All the while, these programs, they cost money. That money has to be stolen from somebody, the people that are successful in society. So we take their money away, making it harder for them to increase their success, thereby hire more people and raise the entire population up. You see, they want to be in control. Their control is far more important than your success or happiness, for that matter. The left will not come out with any ideas that reduce the size of government. Increasingly, the right won't do it either, and that's the scary part. And the policies of Elizabeth Warren, the policies of Bernie Sanders, in fact, is what's eroding the middle class and preventing people from getting out of poverty. Get this one. An employee at Z's Pizza in Seattle was stoked to get a raise from $11 to $15 an hour as part of a new law that takes effect. But his elation didn't last long. Oh no, unfortunately, he'll only enjoy that bigger paycheck for a few more months. In August, his boss is shutting down Z's Pizza, and all of its 11 workers will be out of work. The organization that pushed for the higher minimum wage, 15 Now Seattle, wouldn't really comment directly on the closing and didn't offer much of a sign of sympathy either. Quote, restaurants open and close all the time for various reasons. Moving on. Director Jess Spear. Policies from the left are not for the people. The left does not have better ideas. And the scary part is they know their ideas won't work. They know their ideas won't work. At least they won't work for what they're purported to work for. They will work for their specific purpose, and that is to keep people down. Keep people subservient to the government. The left that includes Bernie Sanders, the left that includes Elizabeth Warren, want you to be out of work. They want you to be dependent on government because that is a much easier way to keep control of you. One more quick one before we get out of here. I found this to be interesting. Kind of scary, too. I've never surfed, but I can imagine it would be a dangerous thing. Surfer is rescued after 30 hours at sea. 30 hours out in the water all by yourself. That sounds scary. Once rescued and safely in the boat, he still smelled like pot.
There must be consequences. Let's see if I get some water here. You do talk a lot in this campaign. Excuse me, just 1 second here. A lozenge. I have one. Hey, Debbie, you talk. There must be consequences to, snap sanctions back into place.
You can't do worse.
thank you for joining the Michael Newman Show. Please follow me on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That helps me out a whole lot. You can go to michaelnewmanproductions.com and